Happy Halloween, everybody. Of course, Halloween was like 4 months ago at this point, but we're bringing it back. We're bringing back the holiday for a little mini celebration here with WandaVision episode 6, and this episode was great. You know, not really anything huge happened. Like, a lot didn't happen in this episode, but it was still a really good episode. I really loved this episode because it was just fun. Like, with all the Halloween elements, everyone wearing their Halloween costumes and everything. It was just a really fun episode that I really, really enjoyed overall. But of course, we are going to be talking full spoilers here because we're breaking it down in depth. So if you haven't seen this episode yet, then you're about to get spoiled. So you've been warned, but even though not much happened, we still have quite a bit to talk about here. So let's jump into this, where the episode starts off actually with the intro for the sitcom episode, which usually it starts off with like a bit of the sitcom, goes into the intro, and then back to the sitcom, but we just started off with the intro for this episode, so that was cool. And it was kind of like a punk rock type intro, and actually the lyrics of the song are very revealing, so I'm going to do a completely separate video on that because there's a lot to talk about with the lyrics of that song. It basically explains everything that's going on here. Other than that, not much really happened in the intro, nothing really needed to talk about, and this episode is set in the 90s and based off of Malcolm in the Middle, and I haven't seen that show, so I'm not completely sure, but I'm going to assume that this intro is based off that one. Again, just assuming. But then we get into the actual sitcom part itself, where, of course, as I said, it is Halloween, so happy Halloween, everybody. And, of course, as we saw in the trailers, Wanda and Vision are wearing their comic-accurate costumes, which is just awesome, and such a brilliant idea to bring those costumes into this show. And, I mean, Vision and those shorts, those short yellow shorts, wow, what a look. But, of course, also following up after the major cliffhanger of last episode, Pietro is back, and now it looks like Evan Peters for some reason. And of course here he is being kind of the fun uncle, and for Halloween he dresses up as comic accurate Quicksilver, which is actually one of the leaks that was leaked a couple weeks ago. So I think he looks great here. I mean, the hair was a little funky, but I think the suit looked awesome and everything. And then Tommy and Billy, they dress up in comic-accurate costumes as well. So, of course, Billy dresses up in his comic-accurate Wiccan costume. But Tommy, instead of dressing up in his comic-accurate Speed costume, he actually dresses up as Quicksilver as well, which is just kind of another tease as to with his powers and how he's so connected to his uncle. So, I think that was pretty cool to see. But then we switch back over to the real world, outside of the Hex, outside of Westview, with S.W.O.R.D. We see that they're analyzing the drone that Wanda just like tossed at him. And Director Hayward really wants to take out Wanda. And then Monica and Jimmy and Darcy, they all defend her. Like, we need her help. Like, she's an Avenger. She's just going through a hard time. We can help her through this. And then Director Hayward's like, nah, fam. And then he literally just kicks him out. So, you know, that's kind of sad. They just got basically, I don't think they got fired, but they just got kicked out of the facility. But then, of course, Monica and Jimmy, being super cool and everything, they took out the guards, and now they've got a plan. But then, this is where things get really interesting, because Wanda asks why Pietro looks different, and that's what we've all been asking. Why does Pietro look different? Why does he look like Evan Peters? And I think it's interesting how he specifically says, if I found Shangri-La, if that's what the word he said, I wouldn't want to be reminded of the past either. So basically that means that Wanda is living in this perfect world, the perfect reality that she can imagine. So if this is the perfect world, why would she want to see her brother's face? Like, she wants her brother back, but every time she sees his face, she's just reminded of seeing him get shot. So I guess that makes sense, and you see multiple hints throughout this episode that basically confirm that this is the MCU Pietro that Aaron Taylor Johnson played in Age of Ultron, just with a different face. You know, we'll see if that actually ends up being the case, but it's definitely really interesting. And in this episode, Wanda and Vision are actually split up here. So Vision actually lies to Wanda and says, like, oh, I'm going out on patrol and everything, gotta keep the streets safe and everything. but he's actually going to look for answers to all of these questions that he has been asking, along with all the questions we've been asking as viewers. So that was pretty cool, and some crazy stuff happens to him at the end. But of course, it's time for a commercial break, because our commercial in this episode, I actually forgot to talk about the one last week. Nothing big, it's about Lagos. But this one doesn't feature the normal two actors for the commercial. This is a full-on claymation commercial, which was interesting. I'm guessing that was something big in the 90s. And this commercial is for Yo Magic, this new brand of yogurt. And basically the commercial follows this boy who's stranded on an island, and then he gets this yogurt and he keeps eating it, and then he dies. So that's pretty interesting, because all these other commercials have been based off of events and big things that have happened in Wanda's life. And I have no idea what this one is supposed to represent. I mean, it could be maybe after Wanda and Pietro's parents died, maybe when they were in the orphanage, or maybe they were living out on the streets on their own and they were struggling to find food and they were starving. So that could be what it's representing. And then also the name of it, Yo Magic, is because of Wanda's magic powers. So I'm not completely sure. If you have any other ideas of what this commercial represents, of course, let me know down in the comments below. But then we get back to the regular episode again, as your regularly scheduled program continues. And the gang walks by a movie theater, which specifically says it's playing The Incredibles and The Parent Trap. The Parent Trap, good movie. The Incredibles, never seen it, but I do know that movie, the kids in that movie, I don't know their names, but let's see, one has super speed, and then the other one, the girl, has like telekinesis powers, very similar to how Tommy has super speed and Billy has telekinesis powers, except obviously Billy is a lot more powerful. And speaking of that, we actually find out that Tommy and Billy do have powers in this episode, which we knew was going to happen at some point, but it actually is revealed here. So Tommy has super speed just like his uncle, and Billy's powers don't get revealed yet. That happens at the end of the episode, and that's actually a huge moment there that we got to talk about. But Wanda is like, all right, you can go trick-or-treating, you can go off on your own, just don't go to Ellis Avenue. And then it's like, where's Ellis Avenue? And then this is where we find out, because back in the real world, Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy have broken back into S.W.O.R.D., and Darcy is hacking into one of Director Hayward's computers, accessing all of his files and stuff. And she finds out that he has somehow been tracking Vision, and basically all the different people inside of Westview. And anybody that is near the edge of town in Westview aren't moving. They're completely still. They're like frozen in time. And then we see the perspective of this from Vision. He's walking by, nobody is moving. He's talking to them, nobody responds, and it's, honestly pretty creepy. So then he changes back to his true form of Vision, and then he flies up, and then he sees Agnes is sitting in her car, just as we saw in that first trailer, and she's in a witch costume, of course, referencing to the comics. Agatha Harkness is a witch, so that was pretty cool there. And then she is super confused. She's not completely still. She's talking a bit, but she's still super confused. So he restores her memories just like he did with Norm in last episode. And, of course, she recognizes him as an Avenger and then reveals that he's dead. And that's when he realizes, like, what is going on here? Like, this is crazy. And then Agnes is like, no one leaves Westview. Wanda won't let us. And then she does this creepy witch laugh, which was creepy. So then Vision puts her back into sitcom mode. And this just leaves us with more questions than before. So it's pretty crazy here. Like, just really, really, really weird to think about. And then back when we get to the S.W.O.R.D. perspective, Monica has invited this astrophysicist that she referenced in last episode to basically get her back into the Hex. And I'll probably make a separate video on who I think that is. I didn't talk about it last week because I didn't think it'd turn into a big thing, but apparently it is because they're bringing him up again. So if you have any ideas as to who that astrophysicist friend of Monica's is, definitely let me know in the comments below. But then Pietro and Wanda are having another conversation again, and Pietro asks Wanda how she did this, and she doesn't remember anything. All she remembers is just being alone, like really, really alone, just emptiness. And then when she looks back up at Pietro, all of a sudden it's zombie Pietro, just like how in episode 4 she saw zombie Vision, and with zombie Vision she saw the chunk taken out of his forehead because that's what he looked like when he was dead. And here she sees zombie Pietro with the bullet holes all over his chest. So this brings into question, what is going on here? Like, is everybody in Westview dead? I mean, obviously we know that Vision and Quicksilver are dead, but I don't know, it's just really interesting to think about there, like, what is going on here? But Vision finds the energy field actually at Ellis Avenue, where she specifically told Billy not to go because she knows where that bridge is. So he finds this energy field, and as we saw in the trailers, he walks through. He tries getting through the bridge of Westview into the real world. And this is where you start to see Billy's powers come into play here, because as Vision is trying to escape, he starts coming apart. Like, chunks of him start flying back into Westview, and he just starts basically dying all over again. And then Billy senses that he is in danger, and then he uses his powers real quick, and you actually see like a little bit of blue energy around his fingers, hinting at his powers. So that was really cool there. But of course, he tells his mom, and I think it's pretty interesting how Pietro says, "Not like your husband can die twice." And so clearly he knows more than we think. Like, they've been playing it up as this is the same version of Pietro, but how would he know the Vision died? So I'll talk about that more in episode 6 of Who Dat Devil this Sunday, of course. So Wanda just shoots him because she's frustrated and annoyed. And then this is where Wanda goes bye-bye. This is where Wanda becomes the Scarlet Witch, because she uses her powers to expand the Westview field to save Vision, and it just like keeps expanding. Darcy gets sucked in there, which we saw, but was basically confirmed by one of the posters. Sword gets transformed into this circuit, which was pretty cool. And then the episode just ends with this one shot of Wanda wearing that awesome Scarlet Witch Halloween costume with her eyes just glowing red, and she looks so terrifying, and I can't wait to see where this goes. Like, is Wanda actually gone now? Is this just the Scarlet Witch now? I'm really, really interested to see where this goes from here, because this was just such a great episode. Again, not really anything majorly huge happened here, but the stuff that did, it gets me so interested in for next week's episode, which we know the final 3, some big stuff is going to go down. So I'm super duper excited for that. Of course, as I mentioned multiple times here, big WandaVision videos are going to be posted on the channel throughout the week, like about Mephisto's possible involvement, what's going on with Quicksilver, all that kind of different stuff, the astrophysicist, so definitely stay tuned for that. But guys, you gotta let me know all your thoughts and theories on this episode. What did you think about this episode? Happy Halloween, all your theories, all that good stuff. So thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.